Have you seen some evident situation of systematic basis in how digital platform moderate female healthy content? What are the reasons for the situation to happen?
I have noticed it, and I've seen a lot of reports and research evidencing it as well. So, yeah, and it's, even something in addition to menstruation and periods, there's general women's health tends to be knocked out of the algorithm. I think that the algorithm that a lot of social media has reflects the biases that society has. And so we just get, the same kinds of representation we get in general society. We see the same thing coming out of the algorithms. And I think that there, might be some intentional like demonetizing that happens or pushing certain discussions off the platform because they don't create the kinds of engagement that is desirable. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, some creators like I send you information says using words like period or vagina can limit their reach. What does that tell us about algorithm design or cultural norms?
Yeah, I think it's a general sense of, society being of stigmatizing women's health, of making, periods and menstruation something that we don't talk about, and it not being something that gains the kind of monetizable attention that people want on these platforms. And so those words come to identify those topics and then they're pushed off the platform.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. One of the things that I've found interesting is how creators have used different words or code words to get around those kinds of biases. And, the same thing with, the word sexual violence, they'll say essayed, and those kind of things, that there are workarounds that an innovative and imaginative workarounds, but I think it's still the same thing, that those values are built into the algorithm and those business decisions are being taken by usually not women.
Yeah, thank you. How do you think the relationship between digital platform and the control over women's body narratives? Is this a new form of surveillance or an extension of old taboos?
Yes. So I think that, yeah, there are the old taboos that are there as well. But I find it interesting that some women's health, like, they're not talking specifics, but some women's health, like apps and women's health, like devices, they do get pushed up on the algorithm. And I think that it's because they're an acceptable kind of discussion of like big technology and surveillance and intervention, and you can track your periods, and you can, track your calories, and you can do all this kind of stuff. And so it's like when it suits the economic decisions and the kind of money making priorities of companies, then we get women's health being important, where it's through apps and everything. But then if we're talking about women's experiences or problems or biases, those get taken off because it's not the like correct
Yeah,
thing for the platform.
yeah. How can platforms, developers, or even researchers start addressing these issues without reinforcing harmful censorship?
Yeah, I think that it's a difficult question because you often get interventions that mean well, but kind of reinforce
Yeah,
stereotypes about women. But there is interesting work in like the femtech sphere, or like feminist algorithms, or having an audit of algorithms. of having more women on the team, more women of color on the team developing these algorithms. And so if you are, going to potentially say that you want to make changes, those changes have to be done by the people who are impacted. And sometimes that's not going to be the most monetizable decision,
Yeah.
but it's the one, if you do want to have women's health further up on the agenda, that those decisions have to be made.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the last question. What kind of digital literacy or resistance strategies do you think users, especially women, should develop in response to agoraphobic biases?
Yeah, I think I find it really interesting how some content creators are finding ways around the demonetizing and being deplatformed and everything, whether it's the use of different codes, whether it's the use of different kinds of engagements, different kinds of images, using music that will sort of
Yeah.
skirt around. And so I think that those kinds of pushing back against, people, we've heard her talking out about this as well and writing articles in, newspapers and in media and talking out about how important this is. I found it really interesting. There's a couple of podcasts that have feature women who have experienced this kind of treatment online, who are talking out about it and gaining traction. There's a podcast called "There Are No Girls on the Internet" that does a really good job of that. So I think those kinds of things are really, heartening that you
Yeah.
get to see them as well.
Thank you.